Hello Zaniacs, I am Laney.
And I am Marshall.
Today we're going to talk about Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. I have read one other Christina Lauren book, and that's The Honey Don't List that came out earlier this year. I read it for review. Love and Other Words, I basically read this because some people from my book club were like, let's read this book together. And I'm like, okay. So I started it like a month ago. And I got a couple pages in, I would say probably like maybe 4 chapters in, and I started getting kind of bored, and I was reading it. And then it expired and had to go back to the library, so I was like, oh, sorry, you didn't finish it. So then I ended up getting it as an audiobook from the library, and I just listened to it in like double time so that I could get through it faster. So the story of Love and Other Words is about a girl who, when she is younger, her dad buys a house after her mom dies. And in the house, she has a closet that kind of gets made into a library of sorts. And the next door neighbor, there's a boy, and he also loves to read. So a lot of their time is spent in this closet reading together. And they kind of grow up together, but she only goes to this house on the weekends. So it's kind of this little like weekend like friendship thing happening. But it is interspersed between the present day. So in the present day, she hasn't talked to him in like 11 years. Something happened 11 years ago that she blames him for. You don't know what it is. And they lost touch. And so she sees him again and she's like, oh my gosh, this guy was like the love of her life apparently. Grew to be the love of her life. And then all of a sudden, they were out of touch for 11 years. So they meet up again and then they kind of try to reconcile with what happened while in this like right before they started to break up, and then in this 11-year period in between time. So you find out what it was that broke them apart and how they get back together.
Doesn't sound like my kind of book.
It probably isn't your kind of book.
I'm not typically that much for just straight up romance stories.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Now this book was cute. But in my opinion, not enough happened in this book.
Okay.
Which you can probably tell by how I'm talking about it. The parts where they talk about their childhood, there was stuff that happened that was slightly significant, but it wasn't enough to like drive the story. It was always like, okay, like, and here they go again, and they're together again. Isn't that great? Awesome. Okay. And now they're together again. Isn't that great? They're reading this book. And it was like, I don't know. I kind of wish there was more about it. Like, there were some things that were fairly serious that they had to contend with, like her mother's death before she moved there. They kind of had to deal with all those emotions, but to be honest, I didn't really get it. Like, I didn't connect with anything in this. I thought it was like more drawn out than it should have been. I think they tried to make it more interesting by interspersing the time periods so that you would go back and forth, and there was action like in the present, but in the past there wasn't a lot of action. So those chapters kind of felt flatter to me than the present ones, and that was really sad because I was hoping for a lot more in this book. So yeah, I didn't finish it, rightly so, I guess, in the first place. If romance is your type of book, you will probably really like this book. This book is all about the romance and all about, you know, their relationship and how it grows and changes. So definitely, if you are a fan of Christina Lauren or if you're a fan of like romance novels, this one is for you. Wasn't really for me. So I only gave it 3 stars. It was still a solid book. It was well written. I just didn't really like the situations that were happening in this particular book. So yes. So thank you so much for watching our little review of Love and Other Words, and until next time,
Stay zany.
bye-bye.